Here at the Democratic National Convention, Charlotte 2012. We're here with a good friend of the program. You've heard him many times, Congressman Rob Andrews of New Jersey. Great to have you here. It's a big day for Bill Clinton tonight. Yesterday, a big day for Michelle Obama, Deval Patrick, tribute to Ted Kennedy. Your thoughts about what we saw yesterday?
I think it was a big night for the country. This debate really is about whether we should go back to the disastrous policies that created this terrible economic situation we face, or whether we should go forward and try something that really works. And I think Mrs. Obama spoke movingly about the human consequences of that choice. Tonight I expect former President Clinton to speak very eloquently about what the choice means in terms of policy. You know, under President Clinton, there were 600,000 new businesses created and 23 million new jobs. You compare that to the Bush years, and the difference is astonishing, and that's the choice he's going to lay before the country tonight.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that is pretty evident in these two parties is that one gets the fact that the average median income in the country is $45,000 a year. The other one seems like that they're going to eventually give them something, maybe in the next millennium. There's tremendous differences between the economic proposals, or lack thereof in the case of Romney, and what the president and the Democrats are offering.
I think it comes from a difference in background. I admire anybody who's built something on their own, a business, a community, absolutely, but that success comes from investment of our community. It comes from great public schools. It comes from roads and bridges and highways. It comes from a great workforce. And the Democratic idea is that when we all work together, we all rise together. I think what you saw in Tampa last week was this idea that, you know, every man for himself. And if you really think about how the country works and when it prospers, it's not when we do this every man for himself philosophy.
One of the things that I think that when you talk about that and doing it together, and the president talks about rebuilding America as we do on our show, and one of the areas is, again, something that you're very familiar with, being in the Northeast Corridor, and that's Amtrak, and that is high-speed rail. We were just talking with Debbie Wasserman Schultz just a little bit ago, and, you know, they pulled the governor there after the former governor, Mr. Christ, will be speaking in the next 48 hours, and the president wanted to do high-speed rail in Florida. They stopped it there. Your thoughts about how we are more competitive when we have more high-speed rail as opposed to less?
Well, let me see. We have a plan that will help make the air cleaner, create more American jobs that can't be outsourced, that will reduce the traffic problem, make the economy more efficient by moving goods and people more quickly, and we don't want to do it? I'll tell you something. If I were the Europeans or the Asians, I'd be rooting for the Republicans to win this election for that reason. In a global economic competition, the smart country is the country that moves its goods and services and people as quickly as it can and efficiently as it can. If you want to write a prescription for failure in America, then walk away from high-speed rail. And I just think that this is a clear differentiation between the two parties.
It certainly is. And one of the things that happens, of course, is that you get people now, and this whole concept that wind and solar are not ready for prime time, and yet you get a country like Denmark, 22% electricity generated by wind. You have the Germans leading the world in solar. I mean, all these things, this is, I would say, a big part of the speech on Thursday night by the president is moving in this direction. Republicans don't even talk about it.
They're not only don't talk about it, they're skeptical about it. Go back and read the history of the automotive industry. There were people who said that Henry Ford's Model T was a crazy idea that would never work.
Right.
And, you know, they were very skeptical about his plan to pay his workers enough to buy the cars they were making. And they were very skeptical about Eisenhower's plan to build the interstate highway system that gave people a place to go in those cars. Imagine if we had listened to those kind of naysayers 100 years ago, 90 years ago. We'd be a third-rate economy. And the issue in this campaign is the modern analog to that, I think, is clean energy. Republicans say it's a fad and a gimmick. That's what people said about the Model T Ford. I'm glad we didn't listen to people about that 100 years ago, and we're not going to listen to these guys now.
So good. We're talking with Rob Andrews, a great congressman from the south part of Jersey and Camden County and counties along the Pennsylvania border and Delaware. I'm interested in, because you're from New Jersey, of the bombastic governor, Mr. Christie. It just seems to me that the mean-spirited approach that he took as a keynote speaker versus the mayor of San Antonio last night, which was welcoming, which was all both tough on Romney, but in a congenial way. It just seems that there is a distinct differences in terms of how the Republicans sort of approach politics in a sort of, stomp your feet mean approach, where the Democrats are ready to sort of, reach out their hand, which has been the case since President Obama has took office.
I thought Governor Christie's speech was very well delivered, was self-congratulatory.
Very much so.
To the max. And I think that our keynote speech was about inclusion. Yeah, the story that we heard from the mayor last night could have been the story of my family from Ireland or your family from whatever part of the world that you come from. The mayor talked about all Americans rising up the ladder. I love when he said that his mom worked so hard so he could have a microphone in his hand instead of a mop. I think we can all relate to that. Governor Christie talked about Governor Christie, which I guess is his favorite subject.
His favorite
but
subject.
I always thought a keynote address was supposed to be about the guy running for president or the woman running for president, and the mayor did a great job on that last night.
He certainly did. Final question is something that you're very concerned about. Spoke yesterday with Tom Menino about this and Jesse Jackson about this gun issues and gun violence. And it's happened in Camden County, and it's an issue that a lot of the guns come from Philadelphia. Tell me your story about how we can get control of this. One of the things I also talked to your colleague, Mr. Cleaver, in the Black Caucus, that, that this, as a former mayor, the disconnect with the Republican Party that won't open up any legislation, just the simple things with assault weapons and so forth. Again, unfortunately, the area you represent has been a victim in this, and a lot of innocent people have died. Your thoughts?
Look, I respect the Second Amendment and the right of people to hunt and to collect and shoot sport. You don't go deer hunting with an AK-47. And someone who's a wife beater or a violent felon shouldn't have the right to buy a gun under any circumstances. No one should be able to buy more than one gun a month if they're not a dealer. We shouldn't be selling bullets that pierce bulletproof vests that police officers wear. Respect for the Second Amendment does not mean blind adherence to the gun lobby. And I think the Republican Party has lost that distinction. And as a result, there's been a lot of innocent lives lost. And I think the American people understand that we can respect the Second Amendment but not have mayhem on the streets of America's cities and in our movie theaters.
Congressman, always great talking to you. It's fantastic to see you here, and we'll look forward to doing more in Philadelphia, including our Rebuild America tour, which will be coming to Philadelphia next month.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.